A pleasant day to everyone. For this lesson, I'm going to discuss about the responsibilities and accountabilities of entrepreneurs to stakeholders. For this lesson, the students will be able to advocate honest policies and practices in all aspects of business operation. Second, the students also can demonstrate ethical practices of business organization to stakeholders. And also, the students can discuss the meaning of conflict of interest, and they can also describe the meaning and types of intellectual property rights. Now, in here, we all know that entrepreneurs have a moral obligation to reconcile and balance the right and obligation of their stakeholders. So, sino-sino po ba yung mga stakeholders natin? We have the customers, we have the employees, we have the suppliers, and other stakeholders. The conflict of interest is also an important issue. Why? Because it concerns both employer and employees. This unethical behavior is committed by some members across an organization. Dealing with intellectual property rights also affects stakeholders because intellectual property consists of all original works and inventions which any of the stakeholders may possess. Let's start with the responsibility to their customers. One of the most critical stakeholders are the customers. Business organizations should practice fairness and honesty in all dealing with them. There should be no illegal practices just to gain control of the industry or market where the companies operate. All transactions also should be legal and accordance with ethical standards and practices. Some companies are guilty of deceptive practices. Deceptive practices can be defined as illegal act that mislead a person or group of persons to believe what is untrue or disbelieve what is true. Companies should be honest in disclosing the potential harm that the product may cause. For example, a hair dryer should first to be tested before used to determine its effectiveness as well as the other side effects. Companies should also be truthful about the safety aspect of their products. Companies need to put on their label should indicate warning example the harmful effects of smoking in cigarette packages. Entrepreneurs should be honest with their labels, packaging, and other product information. The relationship between the owners and the customers should be bound by mutual trust. There should be no shortcut, no misleading advertisement, and no exaggerated description of the product features. It is the responsibility of manufacturers or service provider to honor or comply with the provision of sales contract. They should disclose the true nature of the product or service, and this must live up to expectation of the customers. They should inform the customers of the terms and conditions of the purchase, such as the product features, the price, warranties for equipment or appliances, as well as other after-sales service and delivery. When the company representative give false information about the features of the product or service with the aim of enticing consumers to buy, there is deception. Another form of deception is the use of defective weighting scales to tamper with the weight of goods like rice, chicken, and meat. Other forms of deceptive includes overcharging and selling low-quality product. Our consumers are entitled to courteous treatment by sellers, and they also have the right to complain when the product or service does not meet the expectation as advertised or as promised and communicated by the company's representatives. Consumers are entitled to a prompt solution in case it is the company's fault if the product does not meet their expectation. They are also entitled to a prompt response on their complaint. All consumers have the right to safe product and services which should not cause any undue harm to them. And for example of unsafe products are the spoiled food and expired canned goods, unsafe services, defective automobiles, computers, and other devices and equipment, and expired drugs, among others. Entrepreneurs should not take advantages of the consumer's age, status, lack of knowledge, or physical disability to make a sale. Customers should also be given the time to think and choose the product or services intelligently. Customers should not be coerced, forced, or treated to buy a product. And now, these are the customers' 8 basic right. First, right to basic needs. Customers must not be deprived of the basic needs for survival. These basic needs include food, clothing, shelter, education, and healthcare. They should be made available at affordable prices. Second, is right to safety. Consumers should be safeguarded against goods and services that are hazardous to human health. Third, right to information. Consumers have the right to be properly informed and not be misled by dishonest advertisements, labels, or packaging. They are entitled to honest and truthful information so they can select the best products and services. For number four, right to choose. Consumers are free to select from any array of quality products and services available in the market. For number five, right to representation. Consumers have the right to participate in the formulations and executions of policies and guidelines on consumers' welfare and protections. For number six, right to redress. Consumers have the right to be compensated or reimbursed on any purchase or availment of goods and services which do not meet the expected standards of quality. For number seven, right to education. Consumers have the right to acquire the skills needed to always be informed customers. And for number eight, right to a healthy environment. Consumers have the right to safe and conducive place to live and work free from any form of dangers. Next is the responsibility to our employees. Employees are the most important asset in the organization. One of their basic rights is definitely to have a good working condition. The term working condition refers to physical environment, particularly the physical setup of the work area, as well as the procedures and practices that are relevant in performing the task. Employees should be provided with a safe work area with proper seats, good lighting and ventilations, adequate passageways, exits, firefighting equipment, separate facilities for men and women, gear, masks, safety shoes, coats and uniforms, medicine, medical supplies, and the first aid kit. They should not be exposed to distracting noise and dangerous and toxic materials that may harm their health. The employee's health should not be placed at risk and all work tools should be safe to use. Employees should not be exposed to dangerous processes or activities which will inflict harm or endanger life. Workload should not be beyond what the employees can undertake, meaning workers should be protected when undertaking job and will expose them to dangers. For example, some jobs carry more risks like pilot, seamen, firemen, and miners. The degree of exposure to risk should be considered in their compensation and benefit packages, such as higher insurances. Another dimension of working condition is the equal opportunity for all. Equal employment opportunity is an employment practice wherein employer do not discriminate against an applicant or employee on the basis of age, color, race, religion, civil status, or gender. It also prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities. Companies are now careful in putting age requirements for certain positions as well as preference for graduates from a certain top colleges and universities. Discriminatory practices are not consistent with the basic rights of individuals, which upholds that all are equal in rights, duties, and opportunities regardless of race, sex, religion, affiliations, and color. The company should not discriminate also the physical challenged person and prevent them from assuming position where they are deemed fit to work. Physically challenged individuals have the right to engage in meaningful work as a source of livelihood. They also have the right to be promoted to higher position if they are qualified. Employees have the right to due process also. No employee can be dismissed from work without due process. When we talk about due process, this is the employee's right to be heard before a decision for termination is made. Although employers have all the right to supervise their employees and take measures on corrective action when the situation calls for it. Employees have the right to protect their jobs and should not be threatened with terminations without due process. Due process is a very important right and it encompasses all the other rights of employees. It also ensures a fair and impartial hearing of employees' violations or a management decision that may threaten an employee's tenure or status of employment. It also provides for an objective investigation of the case. Due process also allows the management to impose appropriate disciplinary action and implement progressive discipline on unerring employees. Next is we have the social responsibility to our suppliers. We need to treat our suppliers as our company's partners. In spite the supposed partnership between entrepreneurs and suppliers, there are malpractices that supplier may commit in order to seal a deal. The most common form of unethical practices is bribery. Bribery is defined as the giving of gift or favor to influence a person's or a company's decision. Both a person who bribes and the one who accepts the bribe commit unethical actions. One of the consequences of bribery is the awarding of contract to suppliers of inferior products or services. Because of this, quality is compromised once discovered. Bribery negatively affects employees' morale. Employees are embarrassed with the kind of image displayed by the companies they work for. It also leads to poor product quality and eventually affects customers' patronage. Ethical practices to address bribery include having clear rules on acceptance of gifts and how to set aside personal interests and uphold the company's welfare. Now, let's talk about the conflict of interest. By the definition, it is an intentional and deliberate action or decision that results in getting personal gain while adversely affecting the company. One of the best examples of conflict of interest involves an employee who work for a company but also own business similar in the nature to his or her employer. In short, he or she becomes a competitor to his or her own employer. In a situation like this, the employee is asked to resign or is terminated due to the conflict of interest. There is a conflict of interest if an employee is in charge of recruitment hire a relative who is not qualified for the position. Similarly, if the employees fail to disclose that the candidate for a position is a relative, this employee practices unethical behavior. Employees who post negative comments against their employees is another example. In the same way, disclosing confidential information to the employer's competitors is a ground for conflict of interest. Another example is when an employee works part-time in competing companies. Getting consultancy work and providing advice to another company engaged in similar ventures is also unethical. It is also unethical for any employee to get involved in a romantic relationship with their supervisor. Conflict of interest can be prevented by establishing formal ethical standards and policies on unethical behavior. Violations should be dealt with accordingly. Now, we also have here the payment of taxes. By the definition, taxation is an orderly and compulsory manner of raising money to finance government projects for better delivery of services to the people. There are various forms of taxes, and the most popular among them is the income tax, which is the tax imposed by the government on the income of business and individual. In sole proprietorship and partnership are not taxed separately as a business. The income derived from the business is included in the owner's or partner's individual income. Corporations are business entitled separate and distinct from their owners. Therefore, they are taxed as a business. Both corporations and individual taxpayers should pay their income taxes promptly. There are two ways to place the responsibility of paying taxes. First is the tax evasion and the tax avoidance. Some companies tend to evade the payment of taxes. Tax evasion is the deliberate failure to pay taxes due to business. This is intentional and is therefore illegal because this deprives the general public of the project, which could have been realized if payment were made. On the other hand, we also have the tax avoidance. It is a tactical or deliberately finding a way to avoid payment of taxes or pay lower taxes by using methods such as transferring to a city where taxes are lower. Taxable income can be legally reduced through claims in meals, travel, and entertainment expenses that are deemed necessary in the conduct of the business. Company can also provide benefits to employees which can be deducted from the company's taxable income. Next is we also have here the ethical property rights. Intellectual property, by the definition, this is defined by the word intellectual property organization or the WIPO as the knowledge, creative idea, or expansion of human mind that have commercial value and are protectable under copyright, patent, service mark, or trademark or trade secret laws for imitation and delusions. In intellectual property, we have the two categories. First is the industrial property and the copyright. Industry property includes trademarks or service marks, layout design of integrated circuits, commercial names, and designation, as well as the geographical indicators and protection against unfair competition. Some of this cannot be clearly defined, but the important thing is that they usually consist of signs that inform consumers regarding the product and services offered in the market. The protections come from prohibition and using the signs to mislead or misinform consumers and cushioning companies from misleading practices. On the other hand, the company right refers all artistic creations like poem, novels, music, paint, and cinematographic works. The term copyright is used for the act itself in terms of literary and artistic creations. This means that it is only the author who can make a copy of the literary or artistic work such as book, painting, sculpture, photograph, or motion pictures. The author's right includes the preventions of reproduction of such literary or artistic work except when there is an authorization obtained from him or her. Members country of WIPO agree that they have to protect the intellectual property for two main reasons. First, it is an expression and protection of a moral and economic right of creators and authors in their pieces of work. Second, this can promote creativity as well as support economic and social development. And now, let's talk about the different intellectual property. A patent is a right given to an inventor to exclude anyone from using or benefiting from the invention for the period of 20 years. Within this period, the inventors is given benefits like the exclusivity of use of his or her inventions, provided that there is a full disclosure of the said invention for public consumption so that others can benefit and at the same time be given the chance to further develop the said invention. Patent also refers to the act of filing for patent application through the national or regional patent office to justify that the said inventions is new and is completely different from existing technology in the same field. Next is we have the industrial design. Industrial design refers to the aesthetic aspect of a material. Aesthetics refers to the shape, pattern, or color of the object or material. Industrial design under intellectual property rights refer to the right granted to protect the non-functional features of a product, which constitutes its visual appearance that can attract or induce consumers to purchase the said product. According to WIPO, the creators of the industrial design are given the exclusive right to make, import, sell, hire, or offer for sale articles or in which the design is embodied. The maximum holding period for the said grant is from 10 to 25 years. Next is we have the integrated circuit. It refers to the design or schematic use and manufacture of electrical equipment such as radio, computer, washing machine, and other appliances. These electrical circuits involve high capital investment because of the expensive part used in the design. It is very easy to copy and design, so protection is needed to avoid any unwanted copying. Next is we have the trademarks or the trade name. Trademark is a sign or a combination of sign in the form of words, numerals, pictures, shapes, and colors which differentiate one product or services from another. A trademark is used in marketing of goods. The sign may be seen in a container, wrap, or packaging of a goods. A sound tridimensionals or 3D signs or olfactory signs such as screen or perfume are considered trademark in some countries. In some parts of the world, only visual signs are allowed. The period of protection varies from one country to another, but trademark can be renewed for an definite period. In trade name identifies a company or organization. The protection given under intellectual property. The protection given the intellectual property is that the name cannot be used by another organization. In many countries, trade names may be registered in the government office like Department of Trade and Industry here in the Philippines. Next is geographical indicators. It is a sign used for goods in which have a specific geographic origins and have a certain characteristics of their particular places of origin. For example, the Philippines used to have a Manila hemp, which is a fiber named after the abaca plant, which is cultivated and processed in the Philippines. Other goods were also taken from the famous abaca plants such as Manila envelope and Manila paper. Manila hemp was not given much protection, so the demand for the product declined. Other countries like Ecuador have been producing fibers similar to Manila hemp. Next is we have the protection against unfair competition. Under Article 10B of the Paris Convention for the Protection of Industrial Property of WIPO, member countries are required to protect industrial property against unfair competition. The following acts are considered dishonest practices. First, all acts of such nature as to create confusion with the establishment, the goods, or the industrial or commercial activities of the competitor. Second, the false allegations in the course of trade of such nature as to discredit the establishment, the goods, or the industrial or commercial activities of a competitor. And the third, indicators or allegations, the use of which in the course of the trade are liable to mislead the public as to the characteristic of a certain goods. Thank you for listening.